Hey miners, Mining King here. Today this is going to be a two-part video here, as there's just a lot of content that I need to do. So I'm going to show you here in a minute what we need to do to this Octominer X8 Ultra, and this is a non-plus. So let's get right in. Alright guys, so I was going to put it on the test on my workbench here, but it's not enough room for me to go all the way around here. So you may notice that I have this piece right here, and that's because the Ethernet port down here is bad. Now none of the pins in here are bent. None of them are bent or anything. I don't know, maybe it just wasn't soldered on the board correctly, or I'm not really sure, but it doesn't work. Now this is the X8 Ultra from Red Panda, and trust me, it's not his fault. Things like this happen all the time, and you know what I mean? It's shipped from China to Red Panda, from Red Panda to my house. Maybe it got jungled in shipping, who knows? Anyways, Octominer was really nice, so thank you Chilly and Octominer. They sent me over a new X8 Ultra motherboard, so I need to switch that over. I also need to clean and repaste these three Asus Strix 570s and this Asus dual 580 and this other Strix 570. Now I need to make sure that I'm very careful, and I'm going to mark each one of these cards that I take out, because I want to make sure that they go back in the correct order, because some of these cards have minute overclocking adjustments, right? And I don't want them to get mixed up in Hive OS, because then it's just going to be a nightmare having to reset all these overclocks. So this will be a two-part video. I'm going to show you how to replace a motherboard in the Octominer, and then the other video I'll be repasting my Polaris cards. Alright guys, so we are down to just the motherboard, and what I find best to do in situations like this, because there is a lot of connectors here on the board and maybe it might get confusing, is you may want to take pictures of everything, so that way you know exactly where everything goes, just as a little, you know, easy tip. You're also gonna need to take off these screws. Now I already took out some of them, but you need to get this plate off here, so that way you can get the motherboard out. Taking off the cover plate here on the motherboard, and it's just like the other ones, it's just slotted right in. It should just come right up. You may have to, now there is also, so before you lift this up, there is a, see if I can't scoot this a little bit, there is a retention clip that keeps these cables down. It's right here, and you just need to open it so that way the cables can be free. That way you can get the board out. See? So now we should be able to get the board out of its slot. It looks like this cable here goes to this back part right here. We'll unplug this. So that says CMOS. So obviously this is your clear CMOS wire. Just pay careful attention to right down here. These are ribbon cables, so they are pretty delicate, so they just pop right off. Now on the other board, you will have to use this cooler that they have here, so you will need to unplug this, and which we could do right now. Then you need to turn these so that they all face in, just like so, and see it's already starting to come off now. So now we have this is our cooler. I'll have to clean off the thermal paste. I'll also clean it off here. Now I am going to keep this board, even though this port is bad, because who knows, maybe something else might fail in another board, like a capacitor or something. I always like to keep things for spare parts. So let me clean this up. Let's get the other board in, and then let's test the Octominer to make sure that it actually shows up in Hive like it should. Okay guys, so we have our cooler here, and we have our replacement board. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're obviously going to have to put some thermal paste on this. So I'm just going to gently set this down. For this particular application, I am just going to use Arctic Silver 5 because this CPU does not get very hot, so it's not really needed. Just going to open it up. And now I'm trying to hold the PCB by the edges here. So you guys can see there's the thermal paste. I just usually do an X, so you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. This isn't like doing any kind of overclocking or anything like that. Let me set this down for a minute here. So, because we need to get our cooler ready. We turn these all in, right, so the arrow points in. Now we need to take these and we need to point them out. So see, the arrow is facing this way. See, it's turned in. You need to turn it so it faces the other way. So these this is like an Intel stock cooler style, so it's really easy to put on. So pretty much what we're going to do is we're just going to get our board, and we're just going to line up the holes right here. And I'll just do the first. I like to do the opposites first, so because they'll make everything easier. And all you got to do is just, do you hear those clicks? You heard the little click. Now it's all the way through. So now you have our cooler installed. Okay, now we need to hook up the actual cooler on the board right here. And you can see that there is a little slot right here on the fan. So you can fit it over this plastic slot right here, so it faces the correct direction. And there you go. Okay. So the next thing we should do is we should probably connect these ribbon cables again, and this CMOS cable as well, because that's kind of how we uninstalled it. If I remember correctly, it was something, it went here, and then this one went over on this side over to this one here, and then you have your CMOS that comes all the way. We'll try to wrap it around some of this stuff. There we go, do a little cable management. And the CMOS is right here by this battery. Take this out so you guys can see it right here. It is the first 2-pin right here by the battery. Let's get her back in her slot. Okay. Now, I don't want to connect everything quite yet. Like, I don't want to button all this up because we want to test this to make sure it functions properly. The other cables that we need to hook up are going to be the SATA cable. And you also have this little power cable right here. And it goes right here. I know it's going to be really hard to see, and this is why I moved the camera, but right down here below this little heatsink, there is a SATA connector right here, and then right next to it is the connector for this piece. So I would suggest putting this one on first. And then we're going to put our SATA on. Okay. And then the last one we have to connect is this ribbon cable, which came from the top right here. Okay. And the last thing we need to do is put the PCIe power back and connect it back. We have restored all the connections to the Octominer, to the motherboard. So now, essentially, this should be functional. Now we don't want to tighten everything up and cable manage the motherboard and put the thing back on if we need to take it back out, because let's say this board's bad and I have to put my other board back in. So I kind of like to leave things half done until I am for sure on whether or not this Octominer will actually run. Okay guys, as you can see, we're on my phone here and it does state that it just booted up 1 minute ago. So we'll click back, and as you can see, the Octominer is connected, but it can't mine obviously because we do not have any cards. So we are good to go. I will button up the motherboard. All right guys, so we have confirmed that this Octominer does boot and operate correctly. So let's button up this back I/O shield and let's cable manage our cables. So now that we have our I/O installed so the board stays pretty secure, now we need to take some of our cables, and at least these long ones here, and we're going to kind of, there's a plastic clip right down here by my finger, and you just got to lift it up. It's like a little flat clip, and we're just going to pick everything up, set it all in, and set it down like that. I wouldn't put the SATA in there because it would just get weird. So, because you want this slack so you can pull the SATA out of the drive. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. We include today's video on how to swap out your X8 Ultra motherboard. Now stay tuned for the video on, I'm going to be cleaning all of my Polaris cards that were in here that I need to disassemble and clean. And once again, thank you to Octominer and Chilly for sending this X8 Ultra motherboard over to me. I really appreciate it. And once again, Red Panda, extremely grateful for the trade for this X8 Ultra Octominer. All right guys, this is the Mining King giving you the most hashes, and I'll see you next time.